Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, we have with us Joseph Pine. I'm very happy to introduce Mr. Joseph Pine II, an internationally acclaimed author, speaker, and management advisor. Joe has spoken at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, at TED in California, and today is a lecturer in Columbia University's Technology Management Program. He is not an academic, however, having worked for IBM for 13 years. Joe specializes in helping people see the world of business differently through his many groundbreaking books, beginning with the award-winning Mass Customization, The New Frontier in Business Competition, including Authenticity, What Consumers Really Want, and most recently, Infinite Possibility, Creating Customer Value on the Digital Frontier. He's most popularly well known for his best-selling book, The Experience Economy, Work is Theater, and Every Business a Stage, which recently was named one of the 100 best business books of all time by 800 CEO Read. So without further delay, welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Yannick. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Awesome. Okay, so I've started, you're my second guinea pig. I've started to do something very new at the introduction of our podcast. So the question I ask my guest is, what is your zodiac sign?
Well, I don't believe zodiac signs mean a thing, but technically I'm in Libra, if I remember right, on the cusp of Scorpio, if that means anything.
Okay. So one interesting fact about a Libran is that they're very free-spirited. Would you say that's a true characteristic of your personality?
No.
You're not. Okay.
No, I'm sort of buttoned up, an introvert, and that. You think of free spirits as very much extroverts. So I would not say that describes me. Now, I do, if you think of the characteristics of free spirits as being creative and being able to think of new things and do things differently, well, that part of it I would ascribe to. I feel like my purpose in life is to figure out what's going on in the world of business and then to develop frameworks that first describe what's going on and then prescribe what companies can do about it.
Awesome. I like it. Describe and then prescribe. Love it. So would you be gracious enough maybe to share with us and our listeners what date in October you are? We don't need the year, just the date.
The 22nd.
Cool. All right. So thank you so much.
Birthday tweets and stuff now.
Yes. But, it's just a new thing that we're trying on the show, to try and make us different. And I'm big on birthdays. Mm-hmm. I don't read my horoscope every day, but I do believe that certain signs have certain characteristics. And that's just based on my own personal experience. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to get into who you are now. So now we have a little bit about, when you were born and stuff, and you've shared a little bit about your creativity and wanting to describe and prescribe and help people evolve and help their businesses evolve. Can you share with us a little bit about your journey, how you've really matriculated over the years to come to where you are today, and what has your journey been like during that time?
Sure. I was born in a log cabin. No, just kidding. Don't need to go back that far. But I was very much into computers, very early in elementary school. Back in junior high, back in the 60s and 70s, actually. And so I got an applied math degree. I joined IBM. Worked there for 13 years, starting off in a very technical job, moved up into management and into a special project I did for one computer system called the AS400 way back when, was to help, ran a group that helped customers, bring customers into the business process of the system, the development process. And I discovered at that time that every customer was unique, that they wanted to use the system in different ways and put together different hardware, different data, different software. It was just unremittingly unique. And I moved into strategic planning, and that sent me on discovery of how we would resolve this issue. How could we design systems for the uniqueness that I saw? And that led me to Stan Davis's book, Future Perfect. It came out in 1987. I believe it's every bit as applicable today as it was when he wrote it. And in there, he had a chapter on mass customizing. And when I read that chapter, I like to say it's like the heavens opened up and the angels sang. It explained everything that I saw going on. And so when IBM sent me to MIT for a year to get my master's degree in the management of technology, I decided I was going to study this topic the whole time, and I was going to do my thesis on mass customization, and then I was going to turn my thesis into a book. And that's what I did. The book came out in 1993. And really defines the fact that, we can give every customer exactly what they want, but do it at a price they're willing to pay. That you have these co-equal imperatives of both mass and customization. The individually customized plus low cost, efficient operations. And so I worked on that, and I left IBM in late 1993 to see if I could do this on my own. 23 years later, my wife Julie is still not sure it's going to work out. But so far so good. And early on is I discovered that if you customize a good, you automatically turn it into a service. And if you customize a service, you automatically turn it into an experience. If you design a service that is so appropriate for a particular person, exactly the service that they need at this moment in time, then you can't help but make them go, wow, and turn it into a memorable event. And that is an experience. So that led me to discover the experience economy, where we would have an economy based off of experiences where goods and services would no longer be enough. And what companies would need to do is to stage experiences for their customers. And so I took on Jim Gilmore as a partner way back in 1996. Great guy, and we started developing these ideas together, and that resulted in our book, The Experience Economy, in 1999. And that really laid it out. And of course, that set the stage for the entire movement towards customer experience and operation, towards user experience and online things, towards experience marketing. And all of that is fundamentally based on the fact that we are shifting into an economy where experiences have today become the predominant economic offering. When we first wrote the book in 1999, we talked about the nascent experience economy, the coming experience economy, it'd be around the corner and that. We came out with an updated edition a few years ago, and we changed all that language. Said, no, it's here, it's now. We are worldwide, we are in an experience economy. That's what consumers are looking for. So, so that is the key thing. Since that time, more briefly, I'll talk about, we also discovered that in a world of paid for experiences, people increasingly question what is real and what is not. And increasingly, they don't want the fake from the phony, they want the real from the genuine. And so we came out with a book in 2007 called Authenticity, the New Consumer Sensibility, describing how companies can get customers to perceive their offerings and by extension their places in their company as authentic. And then in 2011, I also came out with a book called Infinite Possibility, Creating Customer Value on the Digital Frontier. So that goes back to my original technology background and looking at how digital technology was being used in experiences and recognizing that increasingly what it is about is fusing the real and the virtual. And so that's what that book is about. And and I also mentioned that my partner Jim Gilmore just this week, I think, the past 2 weeks, has come out with a new book himself called Look, about the observational skills, and it's a great book on how you can bring different kinds of observational skills into your personal practice and into your company.
Wow. So you sound like you really nailed this whole customer experience thing down. Like, you could probably just give us a really good understanding of what customers really want. And I think of all the things that you said a while ago, the part that really, resonated with me, and I guess because that's what the show is about, is more so the experience economy. And you are right. People are really driven by the experiences that they have. And I was recently reading a study done by New Voice Era that said up to $62 billion a year is being lost by companies collectively on a global scale because of poor service. And I'm assuming the service, again, is based on the experience they've had. So it's no longer the price, or sometimes, I guess, even the quality of the product. They'll work with you, I guess, if you're willing to make certain amends. But how they've managed that whole experience with the customer really depends on whether or not they stay with you, right?
Well, that's correct. That's correct. And it is important, though, to recognize that each of these offerings that I'm talking about are distinct economic offerings. And I'll go back to the beginning and talk about, in the beginning was the agrarian economy based off commodities, the things you pull out of the ground, grow in the ground, or raise in the ground, animal, mineral, vegetable. And then we shifted, thanks to the Industrial Revolution hundreds of years ago, into an industrial economy where goods, physical, tangible things that we touch and feel, became the predominant economic offering. In the latter half of the 20th century, we shifted into a service economy, and that's where quality became job one. That's where services became so much important, and that's what I think the research that you're pointing to is really about services, which are the intangible activities that you perform on behalf of an individual person. That's why mass customizing a good turns it into a service, because you're doing it for an individual, not inventorying it, doing it on demand. But now what we've shifted into is an experience economy based off experiences. And experiences are, in fact, a distinct economic offering, as distinct from services as services are from goods. Basically, when you use goods as the props and services as the stage to engage each and every person in an inherently personal way, and thereby creating a memory, which is the hallmark of the experience. And so it's important to differentiate that you don't want to talk about the service experience, and it's not that there are distinct things, that you can have a service, you can surround that with an experience. And in particular, the term that you're using, customer experience, it's important to understand, what that really should mean, because when most people use the term, and I apologize if that's not how you use it, but when most people use the term, they mean let's make things nice and easy and convenient. And all of those are good characteristics, but they're service characteristics. You got to go beyond nice and easy, convenient if you want to create a true distinctive experience.
Mm-hmm. True.
Not right. So instead of just being nice, nice is nice, but you have to be memorable. True. If it doesn't create a memory within your customers, it wasn't a true distinctive experience. And easy is good, but often that causes us to routinize things, which makes us really mass produce as opposed to customize and be personal. True experiences are personal because they actually reach inside of people and create that experience within them. And you think about being convenient, right? Convenient is the antithesis of a great experience. Convenient means let's spend less time with the customer. Let's get them in and out. When in fact it's managing that time in a way that truly engages people and within them that is key. So that's what creates experience. Experience is when people want to spend more time with you and view that as time well spent versus less time with you and view that as time well saved.
Now, in terms of the book says work is theater and every business a stage. And then your next book says authenticity, what customers really want. Now, I do a lot of customer service trainings, and the way how the mind processes things, and I'm just telling you based on what I hear the participants say, is when you say to them, let's say I brought this book to them and I said to them, okay, you guys have to pretend like you're on stage. Now, that contradicts the whole authenticity approach. Could you explain to us, do you understand what I'm saying? It's like you're saying, I'm to come to work and pretend.
Right. Well, it's... Go ahead, Cynthia, sorry.
So come to work and pretend, but at the same time, you want us to be authentic, be true to who we are, and be true to the quality of whatever the company stands for, the culture.
Right. So it's a common, very common. My wife has this. I keep talking to her about it. It's a very common misperception of acting is that it's fake, that it is pretend. But that's not what real acting is about. Now, you can have people that pretend when they acting. I won't go into the details unless you really want to. But in the authenticity book, we have this what we call real fake matrix, and basically defines that people can perceive your offering as real or fake. but also as real fake or fake real. and acting can be any one of those four as well. So yes, there are a lot of people that are fake acting out there, which really is pretending. But my favorite example of this to see is I don't know if you ever heard of Pike Place Fish Market in Seattle.
No, I haven't.
Oh, amazing place. I was just there leading an experience expedition with clients 2 months ago. And Pike Place Fish Market is a fish market. It's immortalized in the fish video, the most best-selling business video of all time, I believe. And what they do is these are fishmongers, right? They're getting fish out of the sea and putting it on ice in an open air market. So they really are commodity traders. But how they sell that fish is with wonderful theater. They have all these different routines to engage guests. There's often 20, 30, 40 people around the fish market waiting for somebody to buy, because that's when they have their signature moment, where when you order a fish, they shout out the order like salmon flying away to Minnesota, and all the others shout it back, salmon flying away to Minnesota, and then they throw that salmon across the counter, 15, 20 feet, where somebody catches it and wraps it up for you. And people love seeing that happen. So there's tremendous pressure to buy fish. So these people understand that they're on stage. They understand that they're acting, but they are very real. They go home smelling like fish. They're fishmongers. But so the fish video goes through 4 different principles that are all acting techniques. They talk about play, the notion that you're on stage, you're there to have fun and give a great experience for the audience. They talk about be there, which is a standard acting technique that you need to be there in the moment. You need to forget about everything else and just focus on the task at hand, and that's what actors have to do. And then I'll mention the last one, which is choose your attitude. Acting is fundamentally about making choices, about choosing what parts of yourself to reveal to those in front of yourself. We all know we act differently in front of our boss than we do our subordinates. We know we act differently in front of friends than we do strangers, in front of our parents than we do our children. Mm-hmm. It's not that we're being fake or phony in any one of those. It's just choosing what parts of ourselves to reveal. And that's what real acting is. It's not pretending.
Very cool. Wow, that was very interesting. It's I'm glad you explained it, because as I said to you before, it's a great misconception out there, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who will be listening to this podcast when it's released who will be like, "Oh, well, I kind of agree, but I kind of don't agree," because then you know what I mean? Because you said up to this point you're still having debates with your wife, and the book was published how long ago, right?
Right,
so
right.
It definitely is a controversial topic, but I do see the point where you're coming from, and I do get and understand that, you are on stage, you are there to present a particular experience, and it's so important as a business for you to identify how you want your customers to experience your business. What do you want that journey to look like?
You think even this podcast that we're doing, right? This interview over Skype. Skype is a medium that provides the stage for our performances, right? Mm-hmm. So you are performing who you are in business. I'm performing who I am in business. Neither one of us, I don't believe, is being fake about it. But we do recognize, hey, there are other people that are going to be listening to this. In fact, a quote we have in the book in the first chapter on theater. We got 3 chapters on theater in the experience kind. It tells you how important it is. But in the first chapter, we quote famed stage director Peter Brook out of the UK. And he wrote this wonderful little book called The Empty Space. And his very first line in this book is that I can take any empty space and call it a bare stage. A man walks across this bare stage while someone else is watching him. That's all that is needed for an act of theater to occur. In other words, the simplest definition of acting is one person watches another person work. That's what acting is. And in this case, we can extend it to one person is listening to another person work, right? So we are both working here. We are on stage, and those listeners, that we know are out there, turn it into theater.
Yeah, for real. That's true. It's an interesting concept. So so you say theater is anything where someone is watching the other person. So
Right.
typically, even in a relationship, let's say a mother and a child, if your kid is watching what you're doing, and that happens in life because they observe you on the telephone, they observe you speaking to your friends or your family members, they observe you in many different environments, and they see different sides of your personality. And I guess they get to study you to say, okay, I know when to ask mom or dad for something based on how I've seen how they react in particular situations, right? And that was all based on what they've observed.
Right. I was saying this is when another person watch you work, but in fact, a number of people have applied it to all of life as well, and exactly the sort of situation you're talking about. Most famously, Irving Goffman had a great book, The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life. And that's where he shows how we act differently. You think your example of a mother with a child, is that the normal way that we act when we get a baby voice? We go, oh, could you look at, and that. No, but we're doing it in a way so that the baby can relate better to us. And it very much is, in fact, acting.
So if we're in the experience economy and we're on a stage, how do we find out what is really our true character? Or is our character based on the persons that we're interacting with? Kind of like what you're saying, you wouldn't behave the same way in front of your boss as you would in front of your coworkers.
Well, in general, and this relates to authenticity too, which is you have to be true to yourself as one of the two key standards of authenticity that create that real fake matrix. The other being you have to be what you say you are. The character really, in most situations ought to come from within, right? The character that you are. And that you bring that to life. Another great example of acting is the diner in Chicago called Ed DeBevick's. It is sort of famous. It's actually shut down at the moment. Somebody bought their property and is building a big building, and they're looking for new digs, I think. But Ed DeBevick's is a normal corner diner, so this is not a high-end place at all. But, one time my partner Jim Gilmore and I went there for lunch in Chicago, and the guy at the front who met us, the maitre d' sort of role, had a name tag that said Smiley, right? So Smiley was his character. I don't know if that was his real nickname or if it was a character that he subsumed, but this is a guy that could be Smiley, right? He was Smiley. And he met us with a big smile, and he asked how many people in our party, and he picked up menus and proceeded to walk us through the restaurant. And every once in a while, he would stop at, one time he stopped at another table, asked them how they were doing, and we sort of cooled our heels behind him while he interacted with another customer. At another point, he started walking around a table. He even started walking up a table, up the chairs, up the table, back down the other side. And we just kept following him until he finally delivered us to our table right back at the front of the restaurant. So it was wonderful, engaging theater. And it is that character that he created called Smiley. And speaking of phone interactions, one of the companies that's famous for great customer service and that I do think often rises to the level of an experience is Zappos in Las Vegas. Where they sell shoes online, and they're famous for their call center where people would call in. And I met their chief culture officer, I think his name was, or culture evangelist, John Wolski. And he came up from being a phone representative himself, contact center employee. And he said that what he would do is he played in a rock band when he was younger, and he would take on that rock band, he used the term persona, but it really is a character, that he was a rock star. He had things around his little cubicle that talked about being a rock star. Whenever he'd get a call, he'd look at this image that says, you are a rock star, and that would be the character that he played. But again, this was a character that was a part of himself. He wasn't trying to be something he was not.
True. So, if that's a deep desire that you have and you've already played the role already, it's very easy for you to slide back into character because it's a part of who you are. I agree.
Right. Correct.
I totally agree.
It's why, it's like some famous actors like Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne and that, they're basically playing themselves.
Yeah.
In every role that they have, and very, very, very much of a real manner.
Yeah. It was very surprising to me, as you mentioned, actors. I'm a big fan of the movie The Fast and the Furious.
Okay.
And
all 7 of them?
All 7 of them. I can't wait for number 8 next year.
Right.
And Vin Diesel apparently has a very jovial personality. Like I've been watching him offline in some of his snaps that he puts up on Snapchat as well as on Instagram and even on Facebook. And he seems like a very relaxed and easygoing and jovial person. But he doesn't play those characters in the Fast and the Furious. He's like serious and the person in the family that doesn't smile too much, that kind of thing. So I find it very interesting, as you said, that if you get a role that really epitomizes your true character, it makes it that much easier and more believable for people to connect with you.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Okay, I love this conversation. So
keep going.
Can you tell us, Joe, what are some important considerations for an entrepreneur or an online business owner to be successful?
For an online entrepreneur, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. The key thing is to understand what business are you really in. So understand if you want to be in the goods businesses, the services business, or truly in the experience business. And then you need to think about how do you create that experience. And again, the number one thing is time. Like Zappos that I mentioned. Most companies with their contact centers, they measure how little time customers spend with their representatives, right? They want them off the phone very quickly because they think it's costing them money. Mm-hmm. Zappos, they don't measure that. In fact, every day they celebrate what customer representative got to spend the most time with an actual living, breathing customer today. And it's usually in the hours. And that doesn't bother them a bit. They don't think about the dollar signs clicking off about cost. They recognize that they're doing the right job for this customer, and that customer is going to be one of their raving fans. They're going to tell other people about it. They're going to come back again and again and again because they give that great experience over the phone. And so that can be done online. That can be done in a small business. Again, it's recognizing what is your stage and what is the theater that you're going to put on there.
Yeah, that is so true. How do you feel about, I know we spoke about Zappos, and Zappos is kind of like a retail service kind of business, but let's say you're a government institution. And I know a lot of countries around the world, people complain how the government moves slow and, the employees, they seem like they just don't want to be at work. How can that be translated into a way that as a government, your citizens of the country are running to pay their taxes because the service experience is just so amazing? Is there an economy that exists like that?
Few and far between. Because being a government employee tends to have so many differences from normal employees. You don't have the profit motive that causes you to want to do a good job. You don't have the fear of losing the job or the business if you're not doing it well. The people that you're interacting with aren't quote unquote customers because they're not paying you. The government is paying you. Mm-hmm. And so all those things make it just incredibly hard for government employees to really do a great job. Now, every once in a while you get, what's called a natural. You get somebody that just is so naturally, vivacious or outgoing or having a service attitude that does want to do a great job and will turn into a great experience in interacting with them. But for a government entity to do that, that's very few and far between. The one that always comes to mind, we in fact give out, my partner Jim and I give out an Experience Stager of the Year award every year at our annual Think About event. It's an event where this will be our 19th year. We're doing it in September in New Orleans, September 21st and 22nd. So just 3 weeks from this week. We give out this award, and one time we gave it to a government entity, and that was the Cerritos Public Library in Cerritos, California, outside of Los Angeles. And here, the head librarian, Wayne Pearson, he's now retired, but he got tired of people telling him that the internet was going to commoditize his business. People were saying, well, why are you going to go to libraries in the future when you get over the internet, every book that's ever been published, every paper that's ever been written, every thought that's ever been thunk. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted to create this reason for existence for libraries. So he created what he calls the world's first experience library. And architecturally, it's very distinct. It's the first use of titanium. in any architectural structure in the U.S. when it was built, I think in 2002. But then they have a basic theme, and every great experience needs to have a theme. It doesn't have to be as in your face as a theme restaurant. It doesn't have to be fantasy like Disney. It's simply the organizing principle for the experience. Mm-hmm. And the theme of the Cerritos Public Library is Journey Through Time. That a visit to the library ought to be a journey through time. So they have different areas of the library that are themed after different points in time, a classic period, a modern period, an Art Deco period. The children's library is themed after a prehistoric period. And then they have rituals based off of that. So, for example, when it's time to close the library, everybody starts to put away their books and gather up their stuff, and they come down to the main lobby where there's huge screen, and every night at closing time, they play the scene from the movie The Sound of Music.
Wow.
Where the kids are singing.
Yeah.
So long, farewell, Avita Zang, goodbye. And they all go along, and they go through the motions, they sing along, and by the time that last kid sings goodbye, they have to, they know the library's closed, they have to come again another day. And come again, they do in a town of a little over 50,000 people. Over 3,500 of them are in the library every single day.
Wow.
This is a government entity that understands it's in the experience business, and that comes directly from Wayne Pearson, and has continued on to this day.
That's amazing. Wow, I've never heard of anything like that before, but I personally, just listening to how you described it a while ago, would have definitely loved to have experienced that library. Like, I like stuff like that, and I love to sing. So I think singing brings out something in people's emotions that nothing else can connect to, and I think that definitely ties your brand to that individual.
Right. Excellent. Yep. And then what? You know, it's interesting you say that, too, because Ed DeBevics that I mentioned earlier, they have a signature moment where all the wait staff get up on the tables and the counters and they sing, you know, like YMCA, and they go through the whole motions with you, and people sing along in that. So it is very much part of their brand as well.
Yes, so important. Amazing. Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. Okay, so what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely cannot live without in your business?
In my business? Mm-hmm. You know, it's, well, I'd have to say it's Google. You know, that I can't live without it because I'm constantly doing research. I'm constantly trying to figure out what's going on in the world, looking for new examples, seeing what people are doing. And that always gives me new ideas, which eventually leads to new frameworks. You know, often my Google goes into Wikipedia to be able to research something in deep, but I also have Google Alerts. So I look for anybody using the phrase the experience economy or mass customization or authenticity in some sort of business context and so forth. And even also what I'll mention is chief experience officer. You know, we're big promoters of the fact that companies should hire chief experience officers to lead their offerings and turn them into true distinctive experiences. So I just learned so much off of that. You know, I'm also, as you know, on Twitter, and I learned a ton from Twitter, just seeing what's going on, a lot of examples through there and connecting with people. I've gotten a lot of business through that. And then of course, you know, I buy so much through Amazon. I've got a home office when I'm not on the road traveling, which I am like 120 days and over 150,000 miles a year. I'm back at my home, and I just love how these little packages just arrive automatically.
Yes. Amazon is amazing.
Yes.
Now, how do you stay motivated every day? So you've been doing this for about maybe 20, 30 years now?
23 years since I left IBM, yeah.
All right. So how do you stay motivated every day? And, you know, I see that you've put out a couple of books, and they're not too far apart. It's not like you're putting out books every decade. They're pretty close, right, in proximity to each other. So what kind of, keeps you going, keeps you energized? How do you keep that motivation going?
Right. I'm also not putting out a book every year like some people do. But the biggest thing is to see the effect that we are having in the world. Sometimes that's very direct, that I'm consulting with an organization. I'm helping them with creating an experience plan, for example, and you can go and visit them when it's fully implemented. And you see this difference that you made. In other cases, it's people that, I'm giving a speech somewhere, and you can see the light bulbs go on in people's heads, that they come up to you afterwards and says, wow, this really makes sense, and they talk about they're going to make a difference in the world. One of the things we have is an experience economy expert certification course. 4.5-day immersion in the experience economy we do publicly every year in August in the U.S. or privately in-house around the world. And we have over 200 certified experts. And we see the difference that they're making. Sometimes they're the owner of the business, and you can see what they're doing differently. Sometimes they're an internal consultant and helping a business. Sometimes they're a consultant to other clients. You can see what a difference they're making there. And other times, like on Twitter, I twice this week at least, I've gotten tweets from somebody that talked about what a difference reading my book made. So here I'm not having any interaction, but I know these books are out there, the ideas are out there, and people are taking these on. I don't hear about everyone that does, but people are embracing these ideas and again, making a difference in their business, which allows them to hire more people, which creates more jobs, which moves the economy on. Mm-hmm. And you also see the fact that there are movements like, all those folks on customer experience. I'd really like to understand experiences as a distinct economic offering, but you can see that people are embracing the terms and at least the direction in what we're talking about. And so that fact that I know that I am making a difference in the world is highly motivating.
Wow. That's so amazing. Okay. So then my next question to you is, what are some of the books that have had the biggest impact on you? And I know you've mentioned at least 10 in this conversation. So let's narrow them down maybe to 2 or 3 that you would recommend to our listeners if they are business owners and they're looking for, books that can help them on their journey. Please share with us.
All right. Well, besides my own, of course. But number 1, I talked about Stan Davis's book, Future Perfect. And again, it was written in 87, enduring ideas. The one chapter inspired mass customization. My book, Infinite Possibility, was actually inspired by another chapter in Future Perfect. And I talk about that in the introduction to the book, how it inspired it. And I think there's, next time I run out of ideas, I'm going to go back and reread it yet again, see if I can get a third book out of it. And I think that one is key. Another great one that had a tremendous effect on me is The One-to-One Future by Don Peppers and Martha Rogers. And that book came out the same year as Mass Customization. And about 6 months later, in 1993, I read it and I said, well, wow, this is talking about in marketing what I was talking about in operations. If you could mass customize and then you could also have a one-to-one dialogue with individual customers, what could you create? I got done with reading the book and I discovered that Don lived 2 towns over from me in Connecticut at the time. And so I called him up, got together, we had lunch, and we figured out that what that would do is create a learning relationship with customers that would grow and deepen over time and allow you to really sort of lock them in because you always knew more about them than anybody else and sometimes even themselves. I think you're really seeing that coming to fruition today with all the companies that are using AI to be able to predict what people want. And so I think that's another key seminal book out there. And then I'm trying to think of what would be a good third one. Well, since we talked about theater and you talked about online, I'll mention another great book, Brenda Laurel's Computers as Theater. And it really makes the case that you need to think about computers not as a tool, but as a medium. It's a medium for a stage. I learned a lot about theater, and in particular dramatic structure, from reading her book originally, and it just came out in the last year or two in a new updated edition that I highly recommend. I had my class at Columbia University this summer read great portions of that. So that would, particularly given your audience, that would be the third book that I would mention.
Okay, thank you so much. Computers as a theater, right?
Computers as theater.
As theater, great. Okay, we have a lot of listeners who are business owners and managers who feel they have great products and services, but they lack the constantly motivated human capital. If you were sitting across the table from that person, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them to have a successful business?
Well, what we talked about, understand that work is theater. And again, this is not a metaphor. It's not work as theater. I wish Brenda Laurel had written computers are theater, but it really is. Metaphor is as theater, but this is a model. Work is theater, and so what you need to do is you need to come up with that play, that drama that you want to create. That's what your real strategy is about. What's the drama that we want to create in the world? And then you need to direct your workers to act. You need to give them roles to play and help them characterize those roles and give them the wherewithal to be able to perform them. Actors rehearse. You need to give people backstage time. And in there, you need to create an employee experience every bit as good as the experience that you create for customers, so that they have the wherewithal to perform your drama on your business stage.
Right. So you really have to prepare them, and it's not an overnight process. And I guess it's something that needs to be reinforced pretty often, right?
Correct. Absolutely. All the time.
Now, what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Maybe something you're working on to develop yourself or your people?
Well, I don't have people. Our business, we call it two gurus and a marketer. Jim Gilmore and I and our third partner, managing partner, Doug Parker, without whom our business could not exist. And we, in fact, had a partner meeting this very week. The three of us got together here in Minnesota, and we came up with some things that I'm just incredibly excited about. One of them, one key thing is we're working with some companies to create some videos. To be able to take our ideas and bring them out there even further than we can reach with our speeches, our consulting, and our books. In fact, we're working with a company that brings custom learning to individual people in businesses, wherever they are. And so we're going to work with them to be able to create new modules that they can then help people in their jobs, wherever they are, frontline personnel, create that great wow experience for their customers. So over the next 6 months, we're going to do that. So that I'm very excited about. Again, increasing the reach, hopefully making more of a difference out of there, helping many more people embrace the experience economy.
Wow. Well, we definitely want to keep in touch with you so that when those videos hit and go viral, which I'm sure they will, that we are going to be a part of that experience from day one. So can you tell our listeners where they can find you online?
Yes, www.strategichorizons, horizons with an S, strategichorizons.com. That is our website. Our managing partner, Doug Parker, would love if you waited a couple of weeks till we updated the site. But that is where you can find out all about us, our books, our ideas, how to contact us, how to work with us. And you can also reach me personally at Twitter at Joe Pine, JoePine.
Awesome. All right. So before we close our interview, we always like to ask our guests if there's a saying or a quote that when they're faced with adversity or challenges in their life, they kind of refer back to that quote and it kind of helps to reinvigorate them. Do you have one of those?
There's a famous quote by Margaret Mead, and I don't pretend to have it exactly memorized, but she said that never doubt the ability of a small group of committed people to change the world. They're the only ones who ever have.
Okay. So could you repeat, please?
Well, now you make me want to Google it. But never underestimate the ability of a small group of committed people to change the world. They're the only ones that ever have.
Okay, so basically, everyone has a voice, and if we all work together to do what we're doing to create an impact, as small as it is having an impact.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. I guess it does dovetail very nicely into my vision for my company, which is to create a more caring world. And, that was inspired by the Care Bears. I used to watch that cartoon a lot when I was a little girl. But, as simple as their strategies and their principles were in that cartoon, I believe that we should really have a world where people really are focused on the characteristics of the Care Bears. Each of them had a particular care that they represented, and they really went out of their way to ensure that was, brought out in the story. So I think as human beings, we all have parts of that in us, but depending on the experiences that we have, they come out in different ways. So it's just to get everybody to really manifest that as part of their character on a more regular basis.
Yep, super.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Joe, for taking time to sit with us and share all this great information. I'm going to encourage all of our listeners that were listening to this episode to head on over to Amazon and purchase Joe's books. He's written quite a few. But just to recap quickly, some of the ones that I do think will have great impact on your business. There's a Mass Customization, the New Frontier in Business Competition. There is Markets of One, Creating Customer Unique Value Through Mass Customization. And there is the Experience Economy, Work is Theater and Every Business a Stage. And of course, Authenticity, What Customers Really Want. And his most recent book, Infinite Possibility, Creating Customer Unique Value on the Digital Frontier. So if you really want to learn more about what Joe has to offer, these books can definitely, have immediate impact on your business and on your life and on your leadership skills. So I would encourage you to do that. So again, thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you, Unique. It was an absolute pleasure.
So guys, just reminding you can head on over to our Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community, and join our private group where we can have more conversations about improving customer experience, different things, any questions you have. That's the group where we share all the information offline, well, online really, but off of the podcast, of course. And you can follow us on Twitter at Navigating CX. So thank you again for listening. I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We really appreciate your support of this podcast. Are you ready to grow your business even more? Or improve your leadership skills? Or train your team members in the art of customer service? Give us a call at 305-848-0815 or visit our website at www.yannickgrant.com. That's YANIQUEGRANT.com. Remember, 305-848-0815 or visit our website at yannickgrant.com. Our new online course, Mastering Customer Experience and Increasing Your Revenue, is now available. The link for this will be on the show notes of each episode starting September 7, 2016. The first 2 modules are free, so hop on over, have a look, and take the steps to increase your revenue.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.